So at the very start of a season, a ton of people use the exact same gear. It's because it's the absolute easiest to get, and it's the absolute best to use during your playthrough or right at the beginning of a ladder when you first start farming. These are those items. I'm going to show you exactly where to find them and where to get them. First up, we're going to look at shopping for items. The first one we're going to look at here is the lower res wand. You can actually walk right over to Akara in Act 1 and look for a wand that has lower res charges. Make sure not to make the mistake of having lower res skill. It has to be the charges so that you can use it on any character. Now, if you're out farming for maybe we'll say Mephisto or Andario, drop a lower res on them, and obviously it does exactly what it says. It lowers their resistance, which will increase the amount of damage and increase your kill speed. You can use this on all other sorts of monsters as well, but I generally only use it on the act bosses or if you're farming one particular type of monster, because it's the most efficient to use that way. Really casting all these charges all the time, constantly having to repair it is not going to be great for you. Obviously early on when those first few Diablo clones start spawning, I definitely use these if I'm out there trying to farm with any type of elemental caster. Next type of wand that you can shop quite easily, once again from Akara, is the life tap wand. These are absolutely crucial for those early melee characters, especially that super early Uber Smiter when you're getting out there taking on Uber Mephisto, Uber Diablo, and stuff like that. Life tap is essentially like life leech on steroids. Now remember, once again, this has to be the charges. It cannot be the life tap skill. So we're gonna keep that credit card out and we're still going shopping. And this is probably the most important shopping trip you're ever gonna make. If you're anything but a sorceress, make sure you go ahead and shop yourself a teleport staff early on in ladder. Now, I usually play through the game as fast as I can in a full party, so I usually end up shopping one of these later from somebody like Dragnon, but the absolute earliest you can actually get these is Act 3 of normal. And there's actually a little trick to make your shopping a little bit quicker and the staffs will be cheaper. What you do is head over to Ormus in Act 3 of normal with a character somewhere between like level 20 to 23. As long as you're under that level 24, the staffs that have teleport charges on them will be red. So you can go ahead and find them quicker. You don't have to look at every single staff. You can shop it, and then when you eventually do turn level 24, you can slap that puppy on and start teleporting through the game like you're a sorceress. Now, I know not quite the same because these charges are incredibly expensive to repair, but it's really great for teleporting past giant mobs of monsters that you really have no interest in fighting, or teleporting across walls. Now, a lot of times too, don't forget you're going to have slots that are just going to have no real great gear for them, and incredibly early on, you can literally just walk over to vendors and actually shop stuff that's incredibly useful. This gets overlooked probably the most in my opinion, but you can walk right over to Charcy. You can find boots that have maybe 15 or 20 or 25 lightning res on them. You can find some gloves that maybe have some life on them. Don't sleep early on if you don't really find anything good to put in these spots, to just go shop something that has anything that can really help you out. And even later on in the game, you can find stuff that has a ton of magic find on it, buying boots that have walk run on them, and you can even find gloves that have up to even 3-2 bow skills, up to 20% increased attack speed. Some absolutely amazing things late game, but even early game, you can get some really helpful stuff just buying it from vendors. Now we're going to talk about rune words that everybody uses early on. The most obvious go-to, everybody makes one of these no matter what your character is, and that is not hyperbolic in any sense. Everyone makes this, and that is the stealth armor. It has all of 25% faster cast rate, faster walk run, and hit recovery, so it really does work good on any build. The armor is not hard to find. It's just any random 2-socketed armor. You can even shop these from Charcy, and the runes also not incredibly difficult to get. You can just farm the Countess a few times and you'll probably pretty quickly get a Tal and an Eth rune. You're going to continue using this armor probably all the way through the game, to be perfectly honest. The next one isn't as universally used, but it can give you a huge boost to the certain characters that do use it, and that is the Leaf Staff. This uses just a tier and a rail and goes in any 2-socketed staff. Once again, much like the armor, you can march over to not Charcy this time, but Akara in normal, and just shop a 2-socketed staff. Sometimes, if you're going for that sorceress, maybe a fireball sorceress, you can find these staffs with a bunch of skills on it even, and make an absolutely nasty leaf. Besides the sorceress though, don't forget you can throw this on the fire druid, and sometimes people will even use this on the fire trap assassin. The next up incredibly low level rune word that a ton of people use is a rune word for the helmet called Lore. Now this gives you 1 to all skills. It only takes an ort and a soul, and once again you can go over and just shop the base. Once again, heading over to Charcy, just check the helmets, buy whatever you can that has 2 open sockets, slap those runes in, and you're good to go. The next one is actually used on endgame builds, but you can actually make an incredibly budget version of this one earlier, and it's going to help you out a ton, and that is making yourself an insight polearm as fast as you can. This isn't going to necessarily be used on your character, even though you can, if you're a melee character, go ahead and whack down some demons with this sucker, but throw this on your Act 2 mercenary. A lot of times it's known for the meditation or to help out the casters, but even not counting that, it actually increases your melee damage for your mercenary a ton. I wouldn't really be too picky on what base you use for your first one either. Just any 4-socketed polearm you find as fast as possible. Get those runes in there to make an insight. It is going to help your character out a ton. And once you get that character past normal, if you are a caster, you're going to probably need a better type of caster weapon. The absolute endgame one is that spirit shield. You're not really going to be able to make that very quickly, but you can actually make a spirit sword super easy, super early on, just after you get past normal. All you have to do is go out into cows, find yourself a crystal sword, longsword, or broadsword. Crystal is usually the most preferred due to the lower strength requirement. Take that sword over to Larzik, use your Larzik socket quest, and it'll get 4 open sockets every single time. Go ahead and plug those spirit runes in, and you have yourself an absolutely amazing caster weapon. Now it's risky business if you grab a sword from anywhere in Nightmare or anywhere else like that, because you don't know for sure if it's going to get 4 open sockets. The reason from cows it gets 4 open sockets every time is because of the monster level of the cows. If you grab one from somewhere in Nightmare, you don't know for sure what the item level is going to be, so you could risk getting 5 or even later in the game 6 sockets on that crystal sword, completely nuking your Larzik quest, so don't do that. You could go ahead and wait to find that 4 open socket sword, but sometimes it can take a little bit longer than you'd expect, and this item helps you out so much. If you're on a playthrough, I would not blame anyone at all for using a socket quest for this. Last up is an item that I personally use on literally every single character I ever start a ladder with, ever, bar none, because it tackles the one thing that everybody wants to accomplish. You want better gear on your character. How do you find that better gear? You got to get more magic find on, and that's why I always grab a 3-socketed helm and plug in topazes to get free magic find essentially. Now the reason I plug it in on the helmet instead of, we'll say, the armor, yes, while you can get more magic find by plugging those topazes into an armor because there's 4 open slots possible on armor, I feel like you give up too much whether you are still rocking your stealth, that cast rate, the walk run, the hit recovery, or if you have better armor now, maybe you've got a Viper Magi, it's not worth sacrificing that to get the magic find. Usually on the helmet slot for almost every character, right when you get through hell difficulty, you're usually still rocking something like a lore or something that's just really not helping out that much. A lore does have that 1 to all skills, but I feel like sacrificing 1 to all skills is well worth the amount of magic find you can get on this helmet. Also, I would tell you, don't necessarily wait to get 3 perfect topazes. Just plug in whatever you got, whether it's flawless or perfect, right off the bat. That's going to be perfectly fine. Plugging in 3 flawless topazes as opposed to 3 perfect topazes is only the difference of 12 magic find. And considering it could take you a day or two to find enough flawless topazes to cube up to perfect, it's really not worth that sacrifice in time, in my opinion. So get those topazes in that helmet, get that magic find on, and get out there and find that Shaco.